So 2 years ago, I started seeking mentorship from a woman named Kelly Brock. And after knowing Kelly and seeing her go to this island called the Aerial BVI for a retreat, there was just something in my spirit that lunged into her reels and her pictures and what she was sharing about this retreat. And so for 2 years now, I've had this island on my vision board. Like I've made actual poster boards with it on it. I have my own vision album in my phone, just where I save pictures of places I want to go or things that I want to manifest or just different versions of me that I know is a matter of time before I step into. And so had this island on there, had it as my laptop background for the longest time, had very visceral, vivid dreams about being at this island, more than just a random dream. It was just like, no, this is a message from God type dream that you're supposed to be there. Remember scrolling on Instagram and seeing one of my favorite Bachelor Nation people. Her name's Susie Evans, that she was at this island. So it was just like signs and visions and 2 years in the making. I got to go last week to the Aerial BVI. It's called Buck Island. It's a private island owned by a woman named Brittany Turner, who is my age, and her story is insane if you just look her up on Google, Wikipedia. But she went from homeless to owning a private island and using it for this space to bring healing and rejuvenation to people on so many levels. So people can go there for healing retreats, but also she has a program called Heal the Heroes, where it is a program that you can nominate Army veterans that are suicidal, struggling with suicidal ideation, and they get to go free once they're nominated and chosen to go to this island and then spend a year in the Heal the Heroes program where they have monthly calls, and they're training these Army vets to use all of their combat skills to go out as a force for good and save women, men, kids who are sex trafficked, as well as offer disaster relief for places that have been completely wrecked by natural disasters. And I asked her at one point during the retreat, because Brittany co-led this Presence Summit I was at last week with Kelly Brock, and I got to meet Brittany for the first time. I've heard of her for a long time. And I said, in your Heal the Heroes program, how many of the suicidal vets do end up still taking their life even after the program? And she looked at me with wide eyes and she said, zero. Of all of the hundreds of men that have been through the program, she knocked on the she knocked on the boat. She's like, knock on wood, and continued prayers. But so far, every single man that we have worked with to help him turn all of his pain into purpose has continued living and healing and making a huge impact in a force for good for the world. So this is just a little background on where I went and who owns this island. Last year I almost went. They had the Presence Summit, it's called, last year, and I didn't go because of scarcity. It was still in my business, was still, picking up speed, but I was like, I don't know, it's a lot of money to drop on this retreat, and was just afraid of spending that much. I just never invested that much in myself before. Then this year, I was like, okay, this is the year I'm going to go. But my husband had decided he wanted to go on his first ever men's retreat in Utah at Zion National Park. And I was like, I've been on retreats before. I know they're life-changing. This is the same exact week. I would rather stay and Sebastian go and him get to experience that than me. It just feels fair. But so I told Kelly and I was like, Kelly, it's not going to work out again. Sebastian's going to go on a retreat that same week. It's just too much with childcare. And she honored that. And I feel very safe and comfortable saying no to Kelly. She's become a dear friend over the years. But that woman called me back. I forget how many days later. She was like, Becky, I had a dream that you were at Presence and I can't shake it. I really think you're meant to be there. Like, I just don't think that you're right in saying no this time. She's like, I love you no matter what, but this really in my being, I just feel like you're meant to be there. And when she said that, on the phone, I had chills flush through my whole body, head to toes, like brrr, 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 chills through my body. And that is my own personal way that God has always communicated with me. Anytime there's like a big decision or a way that I need to know clarity and like what way I should go or should I step in this direction, I get full body chills. And every time I've listened to that as a sign from God, it has been good. And so when she was saying, Becky, I think you're meant to be there, all the chills, I was like, oh my gosh. Okay, I guess we're gonna figure this out. So we figured out childcare. Even the couple days leading up to the retreat, there were still things and obstacles that almost kept us from going. One, I got in a terrible collision in a soccer game. My husband and I play co-ed rec soccer, and I collided with this girl twice my size and had a gnarly bruise. Thought it might have been fractured. It was the ugliest bruise I've ever seen in my life. And so there was like risk of blood clot flying on the plane and all this stuff that I had to figure out. And I wasn't sure if I was going to get to go, but I did end up working it out, saw some doctors, and just went with a compression sock, and it was fine. But also, right before leaving for the retreat, my passport is in our lockbox in our bedroom, and the batteries died in the lockbox. And so I couldn't open the lockbox, and the batteries are freaking inside the lockbox. So dumb how it was designed, but I ended up finding a spare key that I didn't know we had. I was able to get my passport. All that to say, there's just like so many hurdles and challenges to work through that almost kept me from being at this retreat. My intention, I always set a really clear intention before going on a retreat because I know that they're life changing. My intention for this one, I wrote, was, Dear God, I'm arriving as a blank slate. I'm taking the posture of a little child so that I can absorb with a fresh heart all that it is you're calling me into. Today is where my greatest aliveness begins. The rest is still unwritten. And that song came to mind by Natasha Bedingfield. The rest is still unwritten. So on my way to the island, I had all of these insecurities pop up, and I was traveling with my good friend Erin. If you've ever taken a call with our team to explore our Root to Rise program, Erin is the one that you have met. She's the one that gets to know women to see if it's an aligned fit for them and myself to work together for them to be in the program. So Erin and I got to go on the same flight and travel together. And this was like her fifth time going to this island. She is a regular there. And so for her, it was felt like coming home. For me, it was very new. It was very like, what in the world? I can't believe this is happening. It was like watching a child go to Disney World for the first time. She told me, she was like, I love seeing this through your eyes because there was so much disbelief and wonder. And I couldn't believe it was actually happening after 2 years of trying to manifest this. And then I had all these insecurities pop up because I knew the group of women that were going to be at this island were wealthy. They were women who made global impact. They were known authors, like just da 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 da, right? All the list of accolades, they had them. And I was like, who am I? I think I might be the youngest one there, and was just sharing all these insecurities with Erin on the way there. And it's just amazing to have a safe space to air thoughts like that too. She wasn't trying to fix me or change me. She just was like, I get it. And also, you're meant to be here. You're not here on accident. You're here on purpose, and it's going to be amazing. So once I get there, first impression, I mean, they just go all out. They had everything planned, thought of, the boat ride to the island, the mocktails upon arrival, the ready for me to bring me to my room. It was just the most unbelievable elevated hospitality experience I've ever had in my life. I felt so welcomed and so at home right away for this being such a new, experience for my nervous system. And I got to know, more about Brittany and the way that she's using this island. And just really, it opened up my eyes to the amount of need in the world. So she, on top of the sex trafficking victim rescue and helping suicidal army vets heal and providing disaster relief, she also has efforts that save orphans, and just being among women like her and others on the island who are making the same kind of global impact. It woke me up to this opportunity just to play my part with greater global impact myself and start raising kids, even with conscious awareness of how much need is around us all and how good we have it, especially in first world America. You know, not everyone listening to this podcast is in America, but there's just so much privilege that can be used for a force for good in the world. And it woke me up to that on a deeper level. I decided to take part in the invitation to turn our phones in. So we got to do 2.5 days of silence where we gave up our phones, gave up all of our devices, and this was the hardest and most healing part for me. So as soon as it was like night 2, we did a cacao ceremony around the fire, which is kind of like healthy hot chocolate. It's a heart opener, but we did the ceremony and then we all parted our ways and went to our bedrooms. And this was the first time in my life since I was 17 and had my first ever Nokia phone. You guys, anybody remember that phone? It had the snake game on it. I was a junior in high school when I got my first phone. And it dawned on me, I haven't been apart from my phone for any long, extended period of time since I was 17 years old. It's almost half my life ago. I'm 34 right now, turning 35 in August. So what happened as soon as I turned everything in and walked by myself down the pathway to my personal room, I just started sobbing. It just hit me like a ton of bricks. And what was happening in that moment that I recognized because of all the work that I've done, just the awareness I have at this point, is it reminded me of the feeling I had when I found out my dad had suddenly died, where all of a sudden I couldn't call him, I couldn't hear his voice, I couldn't talk to him, I couldn't touch him, I couldn't see him, I couldn't text him. It was just all of a sudden cut off. And then it also reminded me that's exactly how I felt in my body when my husband moved out, when we were separated, talking through divorce. The night that he wasn't at home and the kids had gone down to bed, it was this silence where I couldn't hear his footsteps through the house or his breathing. I couldn't see him, talk to him, touch him, hold him, all of that was just cut off. And it's also how I've been anticipating feeling with my mom currently being on hospice. I feel like I'm counting down, or have been counting down, the minutes to when that's going to happen with her. And I'm hanging on any last shred of moments and being able to hug her and see her and talk to her and all of that with this, but picturing it kind of like an hourglass with the sand slipping through, and it's just a matter of time. So as all of my deepest wounds just hit me in my face when I was walking solo to my bedroom that first night without my phone. And I had a moment where I realized, okay, this is an opportunity to truly nosedive, deep dive headfirst into my deepest wounds. And I know that the only way to heal them on this deeper level that I'm desiring is to truly move through them, feel through them, not avoid them. And so what I did in my free time is I let the tears flow when they needed to flow. I journaled a ton and just wrote down any thoughts that came in during my silence. I took hot, slow showers. I went to the coffee and tea station and just made myself, without any rush, just really yummy tea and coffee, and got to sit and just look at the ocean surrounding me. I napped, which is not something I do normally. And so I did end up reaching this tipping point where I fell in love with the silence. And it actually ended up feeling so, so safe and so, so sacred. And I didn't want to go back to getting my phone. And I noticed I didn't even want to be around people. There was one night while we were silent and there was nobody in the pool. So they have this infinity pool on the island, just overlooking the ocean, is beautiful. And I swam in the pool by myself at night, and I had this deep knowing while I was just swimming around, remembering all the times I swam in my grandma's pool as a little girl and played mermaid with my cousins. So, reconnecting to my essence and kind of just reflecting on life. And I had this deep knowing that my connection to my mom was so strong that not even death could separate us. And it had the same knowing, same with my dad, who passed away when I was 18, same with Sebastian, who I currently can't contact at the moment, that this connection is so deep and so strong that lack of cell phone, being in a separate country, death, nothing could separate us. And I had that scripture come to mind. If you're familiar with this, it's in Romans 8:38. It says, "For I am convinced that neither death nor life, neither angels nor demons, neither the present nor the future, nor any powers, neither height nor depth, nor anything else in all of creation will be able to separate us from the love of God that is in Christ Jesus our Lord." And it felt like a little love letter God gave me in that moment. And I actually decided in the pool to baptize myself. I've been baptized. When I was 18, I decided to get baptized. But this moment in a place where I never imagined myself getting to be ever, and had spent years envisioning and dreaming getting to actually be there, and combined with the intention that I had going on this island of just being a blank slate and this being a reset button and me being open to receiving any new downloads and starting life over again in all areas of my life, I decided baptizing myself felt like a pretty cool idea. And I don't know. No, I know one other person actually who has done that, my friend Stacy. But it was a really beautiful moment. And all that to say, the hardest part ended up becoming the most healing part. The silence became so powerful and so sacred. In the morning, we had a lesson in silence. So we were just listening, but there was a speaker that came who is Brittany's marriage counselor and personal mentor. Her name is Chauncey. And she ended up speaking very specifically to each individual person without even knowing us. Brittany didn't tell this woman anything about us. And she's just a woman that's very connected to God and just feels it very strong to give certain messages and words to different women. And so at first I was super skeptical. I'm like, who is this chick? No, I bet Brittany gave her all our bios. Who is this, stranger who's saying she can hear from God and tell us what she hears? And so super, super skeptical at first. But after having known and gotten to know all of the women before we went into silence, and then the specific things Chauncey was saying to each of them, all of us were mind blown. We were like, WTF? Like, how does she know about us? Things that were too spot on and like crazy coincidental to be coincidence or luck, the kind of messages that she gave us. And what she kept saying to me, she was like, the word that keeps coming to mind when I look at you is purpose. Purpose, 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 purpose. And then, before I went, Erin was sitting next to me, the friend of mine who I traveled with. And she was saying to Erin that Erin was going to make global impact in her, specific niche and her calling, and that she wasn't going to be able to do it alone, that she was going to have a purpose partner, purpose partner, purpose partner. And every time she said the words purpose partner, I had chills going through my body. And that was the only time on the island that I got chills. I told you what chills mean for me. And so I was like, what in the world? Like, what does this mean? Am I supposed to partner with Erin? And so I'm not going to share specifics. That'll be another story for another time. But basically, what happened was in our time of silence, Erin and I got very specific downloads, messages, just knowings in our spirit that we were meant to partner together to do something very specific. And I'll share that for another time, what that is. But we were blown away because we weren't talking to each other, right? We weren't hinting anything at each other. And what we wrote in our journals was the exact same thing. And it wasn't a vague thing, it was a very specific thing. And so it would just blew my mind like, what? I grew up in a church and was taught for a long time that the only way to hear from God was in, the Bible. And so I wasn't really taught to tune in to silence and like really immerse myself in nature. And it was just something that I thought was too woo, or I don't know, too new age or whatever it was. But this experience convinced me, oh my God, I can hear from God too. And how wild it is that God, whatever, you can replace that word with whatever resonates with you, if that's a triggering word for you, higher power, source, universe, whatever. But this higher power, this my God, spoke to both of us in very specific ways in complete silence with each other. The same thing happened with me and my husband. So remember, my husband was on a retreat during this time. We weren't contacting each other at all. When we got home from the retreat, we both got very specific downloads and messages about our marriage and our family while we were completely apart. And I was like, this is nuts. So that silence ended up becoming gold, and it made me so excited and wanting to bring it back home and just sneak away any sliver and pocket of silence that I can find now in my home. And there's so much more that I can share about the silence, but I'm going to move on to the last part that I want to share with you today, which was really cool and different and impactful. And that was what's called Redemption Ranch on the island. So Brittany has rescued animals, zebras, horses, ponies that were previously abused, about to be euthanized. And she rescued them and brought them to this island, and they live on this ranch called Redemption Ranch. And now they're used as therapy animals. And so equine therapy, and there's a trauma-informed instructor who runs the ranch. Her name is Ashley. She's amazing. But we had this session, this activity with a zebra where she said to picture the zebra as the masculine in our lives, you know, our relationship to masculine figures. And what we're going to do is give the zebra a treat. But before we hold out our hand and let the zebra eat, we're going to ask it for a kiss. And so I went second, and I held up the treat, but didn't give it until I got a kiss. I held out the treat, didn't give it till I got a kiss. And then I decided to get bold and cute the third time, and I asked the zebra for 2 kisses before I gave it its treat. And my intention was just, oh, I love this. This is so fun. Like, let's see if we can do 2 kisses before I reward the zebra. But Ashley, the instructor, when I did that, said, no, 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 no. You always want to reward the zebra every time for its effort. Even if it misses, even if it's not what you wanted, you get the kiss he gives, not the kiss you want. And all of a sudden I was like, it was this moment of, oh my God, I do that with my husband. I'm definitely the go-getter, the high achiever. I'm always looking for how everything can be, right, improved in life and just at a higher level. And my intention is not that he's not good enough. It truly isn't. I love my husband, and I never want to send the message that you're not good enough. But what I do, you know, accidentally or just unintentionally so much in my marriage, and this came up actually with my mentor before I went on the retreat, is I don't anchor in and honor and affirm and really stop to offer gratitude and reward, for lack of a better word, the efforts and the tries that my husband is making that I so easily miss because I get so fixated on how things can grow more and get higher and better. And so what I do, you know, inadvertently is cut out his ankles from underneath him and really send the message to him and trigger his wounds that say, oh, I'm not good enough. You know, I'm constantly chasing after this higher standard that Becky's holding me to. And that can end up bringing the exact thing that I don't want in our marriage, where he feels like, man, I can't win or do enough. And so let me just throw in the white flag and forget it. It's never going to satisfy her. And so this little zebra and Ashley's comment to that was a really blow away moment for me. And I've already taken that into my one-on-one client coaching since coming back from the island, and have passed that along to some of my other clients. And I have a t-shirt now that has the zebra on it from Redemption Ranch, so I can always remember that. And I shared that with my husband. So the retreat was amazing. When I got back, you know, I started EMDR actually for the first time ever before leaving for the retreat, because if you listen to my episode a couple podcasts back, I shared about, since putting my mom on hospice, these old wounds of being afraid of being abandoned and the fear of separation have come back like a bat out of hell. And so it was showing up in my marriage, where here I am losing my mom, and I'm starting to nitpick and hypervigilantly search for any little sign that my husband's about to leave me to. My body is remembering everything. Like, you've lost your dad, you're losing your mom, now you can't lose Sebastian too. Like, hold on to it. with the death grip, or else you're going to fall apart. And so I started EMDR before the retreat just because I was feeling like, shit, this is the most triggered I have felt in years and the most unstable, and I need a little more support during this time. And so EMDR pre-retreat compared to EMDR post-retreat, she checked back in with me and she was like, so how are you feeling? How is it with this high, intensely painful fear of losing your mom and fear that your husband's gonna walk out on you? And I was like, Autumn, I feel zero fear about any of that. My fear of separation is at a zero. My fear of abandonment, it's just not a thing anymore. So I don't even know if we need a session today, but we did end up having a great session. We worked on something else. All that to say, my situation didn't necessarily change. It was me. It was me diving into presence, me completely unhooking and unplugging from everything that is calling for my attention, right? Which not all of us, can at this season in life do it at a private island, and that's okay. This is what I'm bringing back to my clients is you can find even a sliver and pocket of 5 minutes to offer your body this, your soul this, your nervous system this chance to unplug from everyone and everything that is demanding your energy and attention. And we have at every point this opportunity to give ourselves a reset button, to give ourselves a blank slate, to baptize ourselves and allow ourselves to start anew. And so if that just looks for like 5 minutes in the closet, right? Or stepping outside just to be under the beautiful sun and let your bare feet touch the earth to remember, hey, in this moment, body, I hear you craving for just not being needed and being able to just come back home to you and be in silence where no kids are needing you in this moment. You're not answering any phone calls or texts. You're not cooking for your husband. You're not responding to emails. All of these different hats that we wear. You're going to find so much clarity in however much you're able to put into your own presence. Your purpose is truly found in your presence. Love is the only real thing. That was something I walked away with. All fear is truly just an illusion. And in whatever ways that you feel caught, we all feel caught in different ways and different survival responses and different fear, just clutching and suffocating at our very nervous system and soul. All of that is just an illusion. And when you're able to reset and come back home to yourself, you're able to see clearly that the only real thing that actually exists is love. It wasn't my marriage that was the issue before I left for my retreat. I was just trapped in my own survival system. Nothing changed in my exterior. I just dove into silence deeper within myself. And so I hope that this can serve just as your sign this week to get a little quieter, dive into silence in a way that feels really nourishing for you on whatever level you can handle at this moment. It might be just a bite-sized 5 minutes, or maybe if you want to take the dare, I dare you to leave your phone downstairs tonight, tomorrow, whenever you choose, and go to sleep without your phone, and don't grab it until you've practiced presence in the morning. That's something that's new, that has changed since I've come back from the island. Every night I turn my phone off from any work notifications, messages, emails at 5 p.m. That's when I'm totally with the kids, and I leave my phone downstairs when it's time to go up for bed. And I fall asleep better than I've ever fallen asleep before. So that was something I noticed at the island when we had no phones. I didn't use melatonin, which is something I normally fall asleep with. I just did the sleepy time, like chamomile lavender tea every night and wasn't on my phone, just journaling or reading before I went to bed. And I dozed off so freaking peacefully. And I didn't wake up in the middle of the night, which normally I wake up at like 3 a.m. to pee. I didn't wake up at all on the island. And then how we got up in the morning, because we didn't have our phones to wake us up, is Gabby, who helped, she's on Brittany's team, she helped run the whole retreat. She had this beautiful soft gong, like gong gong, like that would wake us up so gently. And so just experiencing how good sleep can feel after being someone that for a while struggled with insomnia, waking up multiple times a night, bad dreams, all the things. Sleep is a problem for a lot of people, and usually it's just a sign that our nervous system needs to be regulated. After tasting how good sleep could be on the island, that's something that I'm like, I want to take this back to my home. So all I have to say, leaving my phone off, not opening it in the morning until I've gotten really settled and grounded and practiced my presence. And so if that's easy for you, I dare you to turn your phone off for at least a day or two of silence and notice how that feels. Notice what discomfort arises. Maybe for me, it does expose some wounds that are so easy to numb out when you do have your phone and you're scrolling. But I dare you to do your own mini retreat. You don't have to travel far away in order to experience this. You can experience it right in the comfort of your own home, and depending on where you are in the world, maybe the weather is supportive for you to actually go out and immerse yourself in nature and just remember that we're so much more, and this world is so much bigger and more expansive than our tiny little offices that we hunch our shoulders over at our desk and get so sucked into on our screens on a daily basis. And so I hope this supported you this week. Your purpose is found in your presence, and whatever struggles you're going through at this moment, I hope that you know that they truly are a part of your metamorphosis, and they're going to serve you and impacting the world in whatever way that you're meant to impact. Maybe it's not like me and saving marriages, or like Brittany and saving orphans, or in others where it's helping save those who are in sex trafficking, but there's something that is meant for you, and you're here for a purpose, and it may be tucked deep, 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 deep inside your heart. And maybe it's just going to take some time and some silence to find out what that is. But this, I hope, serves as your invitation to at least start the process. Would love to hear whatever downloads you got from this episode. Feel free to DM me on Instagram, and I hope you have an amazing weekend and week ahead, and I'll talk to you next week.